later in the day. More people than I thought, so it's really exciting to be here. Rob, I'm so glad you're here because I'm going to pay homage to you today. So I'm happy that you'll be here to see this. We are going to look at extemporaneous speech and why it's a really powerful tool to teach extensive reading. Most people probably think of it as just for listening, but actually how you could use transcripts for an easy solution to boosting an extensive reading interest, also for people that aren't really into reading and such. So what we'll do is we are going to use a tool called Nearpod. So here it is right here. And I'm going to start the presentation. And if you haven't used Nearpod, it is, if you look in the chat, if you use the nearpod.com/student, you will be able to follow along with my slides and also interact with the slides. You don't have to do this. I highly recommend you do it because if you haven't used Nearpod and if you're teaching online, it's a game changer. And I mean a game changer. And actually, I think this technology is going to drastically change how we do extensive reading as well in the future. And I'll be able to show you some of the bells and whistles of this. So you don't have to use Nearpod, but I highly recommend that you do. All you have to do is go to nearpod.com/student and then put in the access code. So I'm going to start the presentation now, a live presentation. And how Nearpod works is you are going to have it on your computer. So rather than viewing it through my screen, you could actually just do it on your computer. And so you'll be able to play audio, you'll be able to play some video as well. And if you so choose, you'll also be able to type responses and just interact with the presentation. So the code is right here, this SKFQN. Now also, if you don't start using Nearpod when I do the presentation, and you kind of feel like you get left out, like maybe after 10 or 15 minutes, you can pop in at any time. So you don't have to start with Nearpod. You can join later on if you so wish. So it's up to you. Also, you can leave and come back in, and you just want to go to, they have joinnearpod.com. I think it's easier if you go to nearpod.com/student, and you just need to put in this access code. And I'm going to go ahead and close this, and now you will be able to see it here. SKFQN, and maybe I'll put that in the chat room just real fast here. So you can also see it in the chat, SKFQN, and there we go. And so that's the access code, and then also you should have the nearpod.com/student. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and begin. Extemporaneous speech in extensive reading. So, first question is, what the heck is extemporaneous speech? And for example, is extemporaneous speech, is a speech like TED Talk? Is that extemporaneous speech? And are lines in a movie extemporaneous speech? Anybody want to comment on that? What do you think? Paul Goldberg, I know I can count on you to help me out. What do you think? Oh no, you can't hear? You're muted? Okay, sorry. Well, basically, I'll just go ahead and skip it. Extemporaneous speech is, a speech actually is not extemporaneous speech. It's close, but it's prepared. So it's rehearsed. Somebody's thought about what they're going to say. Also, a movie line is definitely not extemporaneous speech, not at all. Actually, a movie line is scripted text. And so even though you can get extensive listening through a movie, and it's a great way to learn language, it's actually like watching a book. It's actually not natural speech. So extemporaneous speech means there's been no preparation. So I have to have a bit of a warning. Okay, so what I'm going to say might, I wouldn't say offend people, but they might be very skeptical. And 7 years ago, when I went to my first ER conference, I was so happy that Richard Day, he was also the keynote speaker then, when he gave his presentation, he talked about how extensive reading is reading anything. It doesn't have to be a book. And at that time, I actually got a lot of backlash for a very similar presentation I did back then, because people would say, why are you here? Like, you're doing transcripts. Like, that's not extensive reading. Extensive reading is books. And there's actually 3 people that said that to me when I was at the conference in Korea 7 years ago, or 7 years ago. But things have changed a lot. So what I'm going to say, I just recommend that you have an open mind and hear it all the way through, and we kind of go through the data. And in no way am I saying that we shouldn't read books. Reading books is the cornerstone of ER. I'm just showing you a little partition, another segment, a way you can do it that might interest some students. And also that you look at this as language learning, not so much literature, from a literature point of view or an academic rigor point of view. Okay, one more quick backstory, and then we'll get started. So, one of my favorite movies is Moneyball. And in Moneyball, it's played by Brad Pitt, and he is the manager of my favorite team, the Oakland A's. So actually, it's a great book and movie because it talks about my favorite team. But the whole point of the movie is he wants to change the culture, the way people think about something, because the coaches and trainers are thinking of one way to win baseball games. And in the movie, it's to have a high batting average and hit a lot of home runs, hit for power. And the story is about how this guy says, no, actually, it's not about that. It's about getting on base. If you get more runners on base than the other team, eventually you're going to win more games. And so this analogy kind of fits because this approach to extensive reading is the same thing with extemporaneous speech and extensive listening. We're trying to get more words in the box. We're trying to get more words, more comprehensible input for the students. So we're actually trying to do the same thing. And that's why I kind of challenge you to look at it from that perspective about using transcripts as an actual source of extensive reading. Now, with that in mind, just so you don't think I'm egotistical, in this situation, Rob Waring is Brad Pitt. I'm the fat guy. In real life, I'm the fat guy. So in the movie, Brad Pitt finds this guy who is doing something, he was thinking outside the box, doing something that other people aren't doing. And he notices that, and he's like, hey, there's a lot of value in what you're doing, and he pulls him into the team. That's exactly how I got started into ER. So I have a lot of thanks for Rob Waring, because what happened was he came down, I didn't even know who he was. He came down, he saw me in Fukuoka, like 2013, 2012. He knew about my website, Ello, and he knew what I was doing with the transcripts, and he saw the value in what I was doing. And that's when he kind of roped me in, and I got into the extensive reading movement. I learned a lot about it, but I've just kind of taken a different angle, mainly with transcripts and just natural conversations. So now we're gonna go ahead and get started, finally. We'll break this down into 3 groups, okay? So we will have first, what is good about extensive listening and extemporaneous speech for beginners, and then we'll look at it for intermediate students, and then we'll look at it for advanced students. So the first thing is vocalization. Now I'm going to allow you to play this on your device if you're following along. So we obviously know that reading to children is a good thing, but it's kind of hard to read to adults. So if you can get natural speech, a vocalized text to students, it's undeniably good for them. So the first thing about recorded conversations is we actually start with the audio. We begin with the genesis of the language. And so you can take that and then you can turn it into a transcript, which is very readable. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this for everybody here. I'm going to try to share sound. I can't share my sound from my computer. Actually, that's a problem. You can play it, you know what, because it's shared, I cannot share. I'm gonna have to
Todd?
Huh?
If you want to use sound from this,
Yeah.
you can stop this share.
Oh, stop and do it again.
One more time, and then
Yeah.
just click the button on the lower left side. That will
Right.
use your system sound when you play.
There it is. That's right. I forgot about that. Okay, thank you so much. And I'll take off the headphones here. Okay, so my head says, just real quick here.
So Meg, you look like a healthy person. Do you eat lots of fruits and vegetables?
I do eat lots of fruits and vegetables, especially fruit. I love to eat fruit because it's so sweet.
Yeah? What fruits do you like?
I love bananas because they're so healthy for you, and so usually in the morning for breakfast I'll have a banana. I also love blueberries. Blueberries are my favorite fruit, but sometimes they're expensive, so I can't often eat blueberries.
Oh, I agree. Blueberries are so good. I love blueberries in oatmeal.
Ah, that's a good idea. I love to have blueberries in muffins.
Okay, so just a couple things about this clip. One, it's so easy to make. We just sit down and we talk. Meg is like a superstar. Her voice is so good. She's very talented at just speaking at a simple level. But as you can see already, the vocabulary it's simple. It's also, you can make it visual, but most importantly is you can vocalize it so the students can hear it. And so that's going to add a lot of meaning and richness to what the students are going to read. Okay, another benefit for beginners is space and pace. If you do a lot of scripts that are interview format, just by nature, you're going to have a lot of white space on the page. And so it's not going to be a big cluster of text, which can be kind of intimidating to students. So that's just another easy feature. And again, it's so easy to do. So this was the same conversation. And this conversation, once you do it, you could have it online. This is online. You could see it on a computer or on a mobile device. You can print it as a worksheet. You could bundle it and make a book. So, and later we'll show you, you could actually make it and do like a reading video, a book video. Okay, so another good point about if you do the extemporaneous speech is that it becomes multimodal and it's media rich. So if you start with the audio first, so you don't write it, you don't script it, you just start with the natural speech first. So you've already got the audio. So half the battle is won. Then all you have to do is take that audio and put it into text. But not only that, you can take that audio and you can put it into multimedia. You can make a movie, you can share the audio file. There's a lot that you can do with it. So for beginners, this is key, right? Because first of all, because it's visual and it's media, it might be more engaging. And two, if you do this, you can recycle it. It's very easy to recycle. Perhaps the students watch the video the first time, then they read the transcript, then maybe they listen and read the transcript, and then maybe they even listen again. So you can recycle the words and get the same word, up that word count, which sometimes you can't do with just scripted language. Usually the students will just want to read it one time. Okay, so that's for beginners. Now we'll look at some intermediate. So now we're going up a little higher, right? So we kind of want to stretch it out. And we have this famous movie quote. So my mama always said, life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So one thing that's a benefit from doing the extemporaneous speech audio interview format is that you can make content modular. You can break it down. So think about getting the words for the students literally like a box of chocolates, right? So if you have a box of chocolates and you eat one chocolate and you don't like it, what do? You just pick another one. You try again. So it's easy for the students to get something. If they don't like it, just try something else. Also, if you have one little chocolate and you like it, what are you going to do? You're going to have another one. You're going to have another one, and then you're going to have another one. So rather than do the book approach, you could actually do a small modular approach where you have lots of text, but they're kind of broken up. Now, the thing is you can do this with newspaper articles, right? Magazine articles. Anne was saying that earlier about how our students like to read newspaper articles or magazine articles. The only problem with that is that's scripted. It's wonderful. Students should do it if they can, but also it's scripted and it takes a lot of time to do. As we're going to see, when you do extemporaneous speech, you actually get simplified language. So it's easy to have a modular approach, a big curriculum of lots of little things that they can read. Okay, so next, with the same thing in mind, you might want to look at the box of chocolate like this. As Richard Day was saying earlier today, you want to have variety and you want the students to have choice. And I would actually also add, you want escape mode. The worst thing we want is for our students to have a negative feeling about reading. One of the problems with books, and again, I'm not attacking books, I'm just showing one of the problems, is that if students get started and they don't like it, then they kind of grudgingly feel like they have to slog through it. They're not willing to just scrap it and go get something else, which is unfortunate because that's what they should do. So think of it like a meal, right? So if you get a meal and the meal's not very good, you're still going to eat the meal and you're going to be less likely to change what you're eating. But if it's a small bite-sized bit, it's easy to escape and just try something else. So then you might think, well, then how do you get the word count? It's actually really easy. At my university, we try to get 25,000 words every 7 weeks. That's actually just 3 minutes of extemporaneous speech, which is usually one interview on my website. So 3 minutes gets you 500 words. And oddly enough, that's about the ideal word rate per minute for students. So it's under 200 words per minute. So if you just were to do 1 3-minute reading a day for 7 weeks, you would actually get your 25,000 words. So you could actually accumulate a lot of words by doing this approach. Okay, so next. This is a kind of another big one. So authenticity and validity. So I kind of have a dirty secret about my reading. I don't like fiction. I don't like fiction in movies and I don't like fiction in books. And it's pretty much been this way my whole life. But I'm an avid reader. I read newspaper articles, I read essays, I read magazines. So I just like stuff that's real, right? It's always been that way. So I think a lot of students probably have the same thing, especially at the university level. So they might want something that's more geared towards business or something that they're studying. And as we'll see later on in the slides, you could actually create content specifically for certain majors and topics with ease just by having authority figures talk about it. So one of the nice things about extemporaneous speech is it has authenticity and it has validity. So the fact that somebody said it, it's natural. Also the fact that somebody said it, it's real, it's truthful. So unless they're lying, which is pretty rare, or they're making it up, which is also pretty rare, what they're saying is factual. And that opens the doors for you to talk about a lot of topics that you might not be able to talk about if you were doing, let's say, fiction. So also you can have a variety of speakers, what we'll talk about. Here on the website where I have all of my interviews, I have 2 people from America, somebody from Indonesia, a person from Sri Lanka, a person from Venezuela, a person from Scotland, and they have a total wide variety of stuff that they talk about. Okay, so this is probably the biggest reason why you might want to think about extemporaneous speech. It has a very, very low lexical load, very low, like beginner graded reader low. Now the reason is because when people speak, we just naturally use very simple words. We don't use complex words because we have to get the words out quickly. We don't have a lot of time to think. And the process is very different than writing. So with extemporaneous speech, you're always moving forward. You're never stopping. You're like going downhill, skiing really fast. You can't stop. So as a result, your brain over thousands and thousands of years is trained to simplify language and quickly get out well-known words, and just so you have a very low vocabulary load. Now, when we write, it's the opposite. We write, we stop, we go back, we edit, we change things. It's not one constant motion, right? We're stopping, going back, editing. So that's why writing naturally has a lot more complex words. So you can take any complex topic. Here's an example of somebody talking about Mars. I'll play the audio in a minute. But you can take any topic, and by nature, if it's extemporaneous speech, the vocabulary is going to be very basic. So here's the example.
I definitely think we can go there. We've already sent a number of spacecraft to Mars, starting with satellites many decades ago. Then there were landers, where a satellite landed on the surface and sent data back to Earth. Then we sent the rovers, little robot cars that drive around on Mars. So we've already successfully sent many missions to Mars. I'm sure we could do one with humans.
So John, by the way, is not trying to speak naturally slow. He just naturally talks that way. He's not trying to talk slow on purpose. He actually just kind of talks that way. But even if you are a fast talker, if you're given a topic off the top of your head, naturally you're going to slow down your speech. And again, you're going to use simpler words. So you could have any topic geared for students, engineering, science, medicine, law, whatever, as long as the person is speaking about it extemporaneously, just off the top of their head, you're going to have simpler vocabulary and slower speech. Okay, so that leads us to the next one, and that's simple grammar and natural speech. So now we're going to have the opposite. We're going to hear Amy, who talks fast, but notice her grammar. How complex is her grammar when she talks?
So, what do you think is a good age for girls to start wearing makeup?
I think it depends on the kind of makeup that they're wearing and the purpose, you know, because to me it seems like there are two different kinds. You know, there are young children, young girls, young children who wear play makeup.
Yeah.
You know, it's a toy. It washes off easily,
Yeah.
garish colors, very mild on the skin, and it's, you know, literally just coloring in their face.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, enhancing their features or trying to look, as society thinks, beautiful.
Okay, so as we can see here, the grammar, really simple. So one of the main attributes of spoken speech, or extemporaneous speech, is that the clauses are short. They're connected with simple connectors. Some of the sentences are fragmented. There are a lot of fillers. Here she's using you know. There's a lot of what I call fluff and puff, a lot of words that really are non-essential to the meaning. They just kind of fill up the space. So again, you're going to have now a low lexical load, and you're going to have simplified grammar. Now this is controversial, and I see both sides on this. A lot of people say, I don't want students reading this so much because it teaches them poor grammar. But the argument is, well, actually, it's not really poor grammar, it's just spoken grammar. And how your brain works and how it constructs spoken English is different than how it constructs written English. And maybe we don't give students enough time to see how spoken English is constructed. So in terms of actually just getting comprehensible input in, again, this is a good source for students to increase their vocabulary and increase their grammar knowledge as well. It is debatable because, again, this is not how you would write, but again, this is how people would talk. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the advanced. So we've looked at why it's good for beginners. Mainly, it's vocalized, it's very visual, you can add it to media, it's very easy to recycle. Why it's good for intermediate, it's because it's simplified vocabulary and it's simplified grammar. So also, it's real, there's a lot of variety and choice, it's easy for the listener to get out. So then you might think, well, why would I want to have it for advanced then? Like, it's low grammar, it's low vocabulary. What's the point? So the first and the main reason is it's language rich input. So here, I'll play this one. You're going to see a lot of language rich input. Language that uses easy words, but in very creative ways.
So do you think, like kids today, we try and make them do too much, or they try and do too much? That's a really good question. And I think, yes, you're right. It feels like a lot that we expect a lot more from kids these days. Whereas, similar to your background too, when I was growing up, I felt sometimes that I was bored out of my mind because there was just nothing really much to do except for maybe go to the library and borrow some books and read.
Right.
And I had all the time in the world to read them. But these days, you see kids running around trying to do it all, play soccer or some kind of sports or do some club activities or...
Yeah. So here we have figurative language, right? So we have words, bored out of my mind, all the time in the world. And there's a lot of other examples in here as well, where it's simple words, but it's used very creatively. Okay, so we're gonna do a little game here. How would you rank these words on the NGSL? So we have a little message board you can try out here. So we have grandmother, board, land, abstract. So you can type it in. So for example, maybe you think grandmother, grandmother, and you do one word at a time. Grandmother, I would have guessed 55, not 55, I'm sorry, 500. So you can just do one word at a time. Actually, I thought it would be about 500. That was my initial guess for grandmother. Abstract, I thought would be actually like 5,000. That would be my initial guess. Do you guys want to try it out? Kind of share what you think? Oh, I don't want to do that. Sorry. Yeah, I have to approve. I actually hit the wrong button. I didn't want to have to improve this. Thanks, guys, for contributing. Okay, so we have board 300. Oh, that's interesting. Grandmother 800, abstract 2,000, abstract board 3,000. Okay, any others? Okay, so here we go. Here it is. Ta-da! So land is 497. It's the most frequent of all the words. Board is next at 741. Grandmother comes in at a whopping 2,600, even though it's an initial sight word. And abstract was 2,718. So here's one thing we might want to consider. We often hear about, oh, the word list, the word list, the word list. But actually, one thing that's important to remember is the higher the frequency, the more multifaceted the word is going to be. So that means the initial meaning that the student knows might not be the meaning that they're going to get when they encounter it, especially in spoken English. And we're going to see some examples here in a minute. Also, even a word that's very common, they actually might not hear very much, but they might hear it more in spoken English. And they might hear it in high frequency in certain contexts. So it might be a word that kind of gets clumped in one topic. It's very topic-based, unlike other words that are more spread out and can be applicable for many situations. So for example, one of the things we have to remember is high-level homographs. So a word like land could be used in so many different ways. And so even though it's a high frequency word, that does not mean that it's not complex. And so here we have, for example, what time do you land? We should touch down right about noon. Sweet house, how did you land this? It was listed in the classifieds. What happened to your ankle? I landed on it wrong playing basketball. So even at the high levels, it's important that they can hear these very simple high frequency words in different ways. Also, we have pragmatics. So for example, similar to the high level homographs, so is Jill on board with this? Not yet, she's coming around. How was the board meeting? Not good, I was bored out of my mind. When can we board? Soon, I think. I see them opening the gate. So again, in spoken English, you can hear these words, how they're used in certain situations that you might not be able to get in a text unless it's a novel. Also, this is these examples are not really good for extemporaneous speech because this is situational language. Here you would need maybe a movie or a novel to use a lot of this language, because in extemporaneous speech, it's probably not going to come up. All right, and then the last one is just multi-word expressions. So this is the big trick for the TOEFL, right? The TOEFL, the TOEIC, sometimes the IELTS. All these little words that they clump together to make expressions, and they're more common in spoken English than they are in written English. And actually, we almost have two languages. We have the written version and we have the spoken version. And the extemporaneous version is rarely used in official written forms, especially like newspaper articles. A newspaper article is never going to use the phrase "at the end of the day." It's probably just not going to happen. Even in an editorial, it's probably not going to happen. But in spoken English, it's a very high frequency phrase that you're going to have to hear just by hearing people talk naturally. And it's easier to notice if you read the transcript. So if you're just hearing it and you're not seeing it, it's going to be a lot harder. If you can see it, you can read it, it's going to be a lot easier to stick. And let me check, this is loading. Okay, so how many people do I have in this class? Let's see. How many people? You guys want to play a game? Okay, yeah, I've got, let's see. Okay, 13. All right, so this is a simple game that you can use. I'm just going to highlight this game for the students, for the attendees, in case you want to do this with your students, because this is Nearpod, it's free. This is one little kind of cheesy little thing we can do real quick, is you can play a game where you choose a character. And let me go ahead and see if I can get this here. Let me go ahead and add on. So one of the problems with speech is that we have all of these little bits of grammar or word usage that's really hard to teach. You really are only going to pick it up if you do it yourself. You hear it again and again and again. So I'm going to go ahead and play this game too, so the people that are watching can play. And it is SKFQN. Oh, no, SK. Okay, so I'm just modeling this just so you guys know how Nearpod works. Maybe this is, if you have to teach online, you might want to kind of know all the features, and so I'll just use a couple minutes to show this game. What we're going to do is you have different characters, and let me just write teacher, and that's all I need to do. And I hope I can turn off my audio. Mute. Okay, here we go. So we'll do some simple ones here. I think I'm in the game, right? Here I am right there. There I am. Okay, so the students, when they are learning language, it's going to be much easier for them if they can hear these phrases. And here's some sample phrases that they might need to know, or they would want to know. So we're going to start the game. All right, so here we go. The first one is, we need to address the in the room. Okay, so which is it, the hippo or the elephant? Well, there's only one word that you can use, and that would be the elephant, right? So this would be a very colloquial phrase that the students would only probably hear rather than read. Here we have another one that's coming up. There's just 5, it doesn't take that long. I feel like a fish, is it above water or out of water? It's I feel like a fish out of water, right? So again, this is the benefit of extensive listening and extensive reading, is because the easiest way to learn these phrases is to hear them and see them in repetition. It's very hard to learn the grammar and learn them bit by bit. Next one, you can lead a to water, but you can't make it drink. We have donkey, we have horse. So then it would be, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And again, something that would be mainly spoken. And we just have 2 more, and then we'll be done. Okay, oh please, spare me your tears. Is it alligator or crocodile? And then we just got one more. This game, though, actually, for doing, I do this game a lot for my reading classes as the comprehension question at the game. Rather than have a quiz, the students read something and then they can answer some questions. You can do multiple choice. There's a lot of different things that you can do. And the last one, you can't teach is it old dog or new dog? Rob, are you winning? You always win, Rob. Thanks for playing. You can't, oh, I got it wrong. There you go. Okay, so that's just one of the things you can do with Nearpod. So notice I'm doing this presentation. You can do it with students, and then as they go, they can participate. And thank you for those that did this. You're awesome. Okay, so I'm about done here. Just a couple more things I want to talk about. One is feelings about extensive listening and extemporaneous speech. So I kind of feel like this is a situation. In the past, IR teachers would look at ER teachers and be like, come on, man, get serious. That's not serious reading. Today, it's kind of like ER teachers look at EL transcripts and extemporaneous speech like, come on, you're not serious. That's not the same. And then I kind of wonder in the future, maybe it's going to be extensive listening and extemporaneous speech is going to say the same thing to AI. It's like, what, Siri, come on. Siri's not the same thing as a real person. But the main thing to remember here is that it's not saying that it's a replacement. It's not saying that it's better. It's saying that it can fill some gaps that the other one can't. And so it's important that we have IR and ER and EL with ES and even AI in the future. There's room for everybody at the table where nobody's replacing anybody, but we could all benefit by incorporating a little bit of each other. Okay, so I'm almost done here. So here are the cases for extemporaneous speech in ER. Okay, first, it's super easy to make. It is ridiculously easy to make, okay? It is easy to share. That's another good one. Also, you can get more voices, non-academic voices. So pretty much to write extensive readers or to provide extensive reading material, you have to be a college-educated person. With EL and extemporaneous speech, you can be somebody without a college degree. You can be a child even. You can be somebody who's young. You can be a retired person. Also, you don't necessarily have to be L1. You can be L2. So you can get voices from people from all over the world. You can do more peer-to-peer. And as you will see in a minute, you can do things where people can read text from people that are similar to them. You can target topics. So you can do specific content just for whatever you're teaching. Then lastly, it's free. And then it's device friendly, right? So, all right, so here we go. Next one is, so hang on, I'll come back to the comments in a minute. And, okay, so on the 10 principles, extensive reading kind of gets most of it. It gets, it's easy to read. You get the variety, you get the choice. You can get the high volume if you want. It can be purposeful. Students can actually feel like they learned something. They got genuine meaning transfer. It could be rewarding because they understood. It could actually increase their reading speed because it's like a parent reading to them. They're hearing it as they read. They can do it silently, even though they might know how the person sounds. And then of course, the last ones are it's easy to access and easy to assess. Okay, so we're gonna do one more thing here. If I can get on this page. Actually, here it is. Okay, so I'm gonna show you a script, how easy it is to make. So this is Dani and Widuri. And here is the transcript. I mean, you can also do it in other ways. So you could just have video with captions.
Hello, my name is Danu and I'm from Sri Lanka.
And I'm Widuri, I'm from Indonesia.
So today our question is, should we go to Mars? Viduri, what do you think?
What do I think? No, definitely no. I think Mars is very far from Earth, and I don't think we can survive there. I think Earth is a better place to live. What about you then?
I agree with you, but then I think it's okay to go to Mars, but not to settle there. We should focus on saving our Earth, and we can learn many things from Mars. For example, when we go to Mars, we should research on new technologies, so it will help a lot for the future experiments as well. So, what do you think? Should we go to Mars?
Yeah, what do you think?
Okay, so that's about it. The one last thing about Widuri and Danu is that you could have the peer-to-peer. So now we have the technology. It's very easy to have people do recorded conversations, and then we just provide the captions. You can use a service called Revcom, and you get captions or transcripts. It's usually about $1 per minute. So let's say you wanted to do 30 videos. Each video is about 1 minute long with some students. It would cost you 30 bucks. That's it. And you just got to give them the link to YouTube or Vimeo, and then they'll put up the captions for you. So there's a lot of potential here in the future. Now, there's a couple of things. I'll look at the comments here. I'll open it up to questions. One is, Brian says, play soccer or some other kind of sports. Text doesn't match what is actually said. That is actually that's the biggest problem with the transcripts, actually. That's the biggest criticism I get on Ello. It's, unless you do it, unless you've done it for like a lot of transcripts, it's kind of hard to get a feel for it. But doing transcripts is like walking backwards. There's no excuse, we got to get it right. And actually now this summer, we're going to do a big audit of the entire site, go through all the transcripts again. But when you do transcripts, unless they were automated, that one probably wasn't automated. If they're automated, they keep getting better and better, because if you pay for Rev, the machine does it and then a person double checks it. But it is, the biggest problem actually is that if you just do 1 minute, it's going to be very accurate. But the more you do, the more you do, the more you do, you just hear it wrong sometimes. You type the wrong thing, you get it backwards. And it's because it's a very passive process, where when you write, it's a very active process. You're thinking and then you're typing. And also you're kind of stopping, going back, re-looking at it again. Whereas in the transcript, you just keep moving along. So that's why, that's one of the biggest problems with the transcripts, but we're getting better at it.
If you don't mind, Todd.
Yeah.
So I used to do transcribing for a little while, doing transcriptions of basically business company executives doing their speeches for corporate news. And there's a lot of it that is just the way you heard it gets kind of translated in your own mind into the way that you normally say it.
Yeah, there's actually a scientific term for that. I can't remember. There's a scientific term for it. What happens is you hear it wrong. And then when it's played again, you still hear it wrong. Your brain actually thinks it's hearing something else because it heard it the first time, and the wiring, that's what it's expecting. And you just cannot actually hear it clearly. And the easiest way to think about that is, have you ever had a song that you just heard wrong and you can never get right? So my favorite one is the Neil Diamond song, Forever in Blue Jeans. When I grew up, I swore he said Reverend Blue Jeans. And I was like, why is he saying Reverend Blue Jeans? And I would hear it again and again and again. But still, like you got to get it right. We have to get it right, especially if we want teachers to use the transcripts, if they're going to notice the mistakes. But yeah, thanks for pointing that out. So how was I able to get so many people to do it voluntarily? I pay them. So money talks. If anybody wants to be on the site, you can get paid. You get Ichiman for one recording session, and usually we do about 10 3-minute interviews based on that. So yeah, everybody gets paid, especially the young people, right? So it's easy for me to get younger people that'll come in and do the recordings. Patrick, you're in. Awesome. Thank you. Let's do it. I'm going to share my information here at the end.
So Todd, just a quick question. So you use your research budget to pay the students?
No, it's a private enterprise. That's why I'm a buddy with Paul Goldberg. So I monetize the site through ads. So it kind of works like an MPO. I'm definitely not getting rich, but money comes in and money goes out. So yeah, Everything I pay for myself.
Okay, thanks.
And actually, I'm really glad for that because, and I would never change it because it allows me to do whatever I want. And I never have to explain anything. And hopefully I can pay the people to fix these transcripts this summer. So yeah. Thanks you. So Christine, I think, or Christiana said, thanks for all the accents. Yeah, that's true. Like that's another thing is, one, there's a couple things about the different accents. One is it's just more interesting, right? It's straight from the source. And two, I don't know if you noticed, but when they talked about, if you compare Amy, who's an English teacher, who now is actually a nurse back in Scotland, if you compare her grammar to Widuri's and Danu's grammar when they spoke, there's no difference. And actually, Danu and Widuri spoke probably clearer grammar because they spoke a little bit slower. And I would love to do research on this. After doing years and years and years of transcripts, the most optimal source of input for having perfect grammar when they speak is not a native speaker. It's actually a near native L2 speaker, because they have that filter process going on in their head when they speak, and they've become so good at the filter when they talk, they just don't make mistakes and they talk like they write. Whereas native speakers, we don't talk how we write. We're just a mess. Blah, 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 blah. And we just don't put our thoughts together. We're not trained to put our thoughts together so clearly. Some people are, but just a lot of people aren't. And a lot of the near native, I like to call them near native super speakers is what I call them. There's a lot on my website and they're perfect. And even if they're not perfect, it's still good because when somebody travels, they're going to encounter other people. So yeah. Can we get the Nearpod slideshow? Yes, and not only that, I will share a link. I'll do it right now. I will share the link of how to use Nearpod. So if you are interested in using Nearpod, I will give you the training. I did a free training course on how to do it. Just give me 1 second here. Nearpod, I think, is the future of what Richard Day was saying, ERIR. It's going to be the future because we now have the technology to do things. Actually, I think hopefully that's not enrolled. Let me check. That should be, you should be able to check that link. I think that'll work. That'll show you how to use Nearpod, the tutorials. But you can do just-in-time instruction, teach vocabulary just a little bit right before they read, and then they read, and you could add multimedia to it. There's just a lot of really cool things you can do. Is there a way? Yeah. Oh, yes. And there is a great way to get the word count on the, well, you can get the word count just on Microsoft Word, but I guess on the website, maybe not, I should add it. But I should give a shout out to ER Central. If I can just share my screen here again. So I'm going to show you, if you haven't used it, Rob's site, ER Central, has the text helper. And the text helper is absolutely golden. So I use this to analyze how difficult the texts are. And check this out. If you go to Ello, here's going to pop this up here in a second. If you go to Ello and take a text, any text actually, I'll do one that was kind of recent. I'll do the, what's a recent one? We did one on Bitcoin. I'll do that. Actually, I won't do that one. Okay, here's one on Bitcoin. So I won't do the whole one, but let's say I take some of the text here. So if I want to see like what level I give it, like how difficult it is, here's this one on Bitcoin. I'm just going to grab this. I use Rob's site all the time. And I guess I was just probably there, ER Central. I'm sorry, I can't. This is the problem with Zoom. It's easy to lose where you are. So what I'll do is I'll pop it in here, and then I'll be like, okay, how many words are above high intermediate? So if I want to see how difficult it is. And actually for my students, a lot of times I'll do Japanese, and then I'll click get meaning. And then I can share the list with the students, and I can know, okay, how difficult is this text? So what level is it? So this is how I actually rank the listening activities. is I just quickly see how many words are above the band. So here, for this bit, that's a lot. So I would make this an advanced reading. But a lot of them, like the one with John talking about Mars, there would probably be very few words. So I use this tool a lot. Oh yeah, thanks, Barry. That's really cool. Yeah, so I think I'm almost running out of time. Are there any questions? I'd love to hear a voice. I haven't heard any voice. I feel like I'm just talking into a black hole. Can anybody talk out there? Can anybody give me some extemporaneous speech?
Well, I was going to ask how I could get involved with the recording, but you already covered it.
Okay, yeah, definitely. We can do it. Where are you based, by the way?
In Yamagata.
Okay. We probably do it like on Zoom. Cool.
Sounds good.
All right. And yeah, well, the more people, the better. Like we are always recruiting. Actually, if you guys, I have 5 minutes. I want to show you one more thing, if that's okay. I think you guys should see, I'm going to give you a demo of how we can actually use Nearpod in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and end it. You don't have to join this Nearpod, but here's one I did recently on sharks, right? So let's say I do this for the reading that we have for the book. I think this is how we're going to be using technology in the future. And that is, you will have a reading like this, and you can have the students, this might be an activity. Okay, so here's a board. So the students would say, what's your thoughts about Nearpod? Sorry, that's the wrong one.
Sorry, Todd?
Yeah.
Right now, it looks like you haven't shared what you're looking
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Let me just go ahead and try that again. Okay, so here with Nearpod, what you can do is you can incorporate a video. So like here's a video of a man. It just let you watch the video and see what happens. Oh no, it's not available anymore. So on that one, it was a man being attacked by a shark. And then you could watch a video about a shark. And then you can have pictures to set the context. And then you could generate responses from the students, like what animal are you most afraid of? And then maybe somebody says snakes, right? They add that. They could add a picture if they want. Maybe for my house, it's centipedes. I have centipedes all over the place. So the students can quickly look for a picture and add that. I got one of these burgers in my house the other night. There it is, that one. So then they could add, so you can generate what they're going to do. Everybody can contribute, they can like it, dislike it. And then they would start, this is an actual word pair. They could have to do a match game to see if they can match the words first. And then they could do the reading. Oh, here it is, here's the reading. They're gonna say it's, oh, there it is. So they could watch the video. And this is through the search engine. Then they could read the article. Here's the reading, and they can listen as they read.
In sunny California, Craig Rogers was sitting on his surfboard, scanning the distance for his...
So then they can go to the next activity. And this is, they would write something and open the question, what did they learn? Then they could do another match activity, again, before they read the next section. Then they could read, again, listen as they read. Then they could do a drawing where they have to draw which sharks are dangerous. Then they could do another reading. Then I think hopefully there'll be a gap fill. Then they could take a quiz. They can do another reading. Hopefully you're gonna get to the gap fill. Another reading with audio. Another reading. This is kind of setting the scenes of the context. And yeah, anyway, sorry, there's just a lot. So Nearpod it's an amazing tool, and I think it's gonna change a lot how we do this kind of blended intensive reading and extensive reading in the future. Okay, I think I actually filled up my time. Are there any questions? Everybody's probably burned out. Here is my email. Oh, actually, I have one more thing. I have a form. you could help me out. Please, 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 please. I did a survey. So if you would like access to the transcripts, and or if you would like just information on how to use how to do recordings, how to find speakers to do extemporaneous speech, how to access all of my transcripts, how to use Nearpod, I'm an EdTech geek, you can contact me through this form right here. Let me come back here. So if you can fill out this form, kind of give me your feelings about the presentation. You don't have to leave your contact information or your name if you don't want to. But if you want me to get back to you, if you have a question, let me know. Also, I will be cleaning up those transcripts and making a PDF version very soon for all the different levels. And it'll just be an open source that we will share with people. So if you would like access to those, I am more than happy to help you out. All right, thanks, Yoko. Thanks so much. All right, that's it, everybody. I appreciate it. I can't tell. I've got quite a few here, which is nice for being one of the last presentations on a very hot day. So thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Todd. So everybody, if you maybe turn off or turn on your microphone so Todd can hear your voices a little bit, hear your hands a little bit. Thank you, Todd. Okay, so normally we'd say if you want to talk with Todd a little bit more, move on to the lobby, but right now there's some other presentations. We've got so many presentations that came up. The lobby is being used as well until 5 p.m. But we're going to start to get ready for the next presentation. So is Christina here?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. And also, I've been watching the chat. I've been watching the participants list for about 2.5 hours. I'm getting a little bit fried. Can somebody tag in with me, Andre, on?
Yeah, I can join in.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to just observer participant.
Okay, all right. Here, just let me get just 1 sec, okay?
Or if you want, Andre, I can walk Christina through the prep, and then I can hand it off to you.
Okay, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay, so Christina.
Oh, and sorry, Pat, we're still recording Todd's.
Oh, thank you very much.
Oh yes, please do not record mine. I'm